Hello, name's Annan. Welcome back to the channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. Today I got a build for you that I've been playing forever. I haven't played this for quite some time, and this is one of those aforementioned in the last episode, special builds, in my opinion. Anyway, so let's get right into it, shall we? Today's build is just a generic level robe build. Therefore, I haven't really considered giving it a name. I guess leveling up would be a decent name. This is a build purely focused around making the level robe, which is a scaling robe, which starts out with minus 50% to a bunch of stats. Just stack a whole lot faster. We want to make it scale because we don't intend to play any loops here. We want to play one full run, so 3 dungeons and a master solo fight. And until that point, usually a level rope wouldn't stack well. It would be about around the neutral point, depending on how many enemies you've slain so far, if you have full cleared all the dungeons and whatnot. So we're gonna speed that process up with our second starter relic. But let's get into the build first before getting there, right? For our robe, of course, we're gonna be going for the level robe. Look-wise, I really like this robe a lot. Stat-wise, it is easily one of the most notoriously difficult to wield robes in this game because it makes you have 50% less max health, 50% decreased damage dealt, and 50% reduced signature charge gained. Absolutely horrid to start out with this. It is an awful robe at the very beginning. You need to grind a lot. And by that I mean it takes forever to kill regular enemies, let alone mini-bosses or bosses. And how does this robe even work, you might ask? Because that's not all it does. On the surface level, if you've never actually run this robe, you might think to yourself, level robe, and then it essentially levels you down all the way to level 1. So you are super weak, you can't really kill anything, you're defenseless and all. No, that's not what it does. That's not just what it does. It levels up, so to speak. The more enemies you kill, now I don't know the exact rate, but the more enemies you kill, generally, the higher those stats are gonna go. The less the decreases become, and the more they're gonna increase. So right now we are starting out with minus 50 to all of them. Say we slay 20 enemies, and then it'll be around minus 48. This can go up all the way to a net positive of plus 50% each, and when upgraded, it will go up to a maximum of plus 75%. Though it doesn't ramp up faster, so the robe upgrade here is generally considered not super useful unless you are doing loops. I would highly recommend not picking this robe for boss rush runs. I would highly recommend not picking this robe, playing a build around this robe if you value your time, because a run with this takes forever. As in the beginning, we just lack everything imaginable. We need everything. We need to find absolutely everything that could even help us just a tiny bit kill those pesky regular enemies just a little bit faster. Also, in multiplayer, this robe is abysmal, in my opinion, because you actually want to do the killing. You don't want other players to do the killing for you, though the players arguably might be able to help you out here and there, since they won't work with decreased stats for the most part in multiplayer. Both players can not run the same rope in the default game anyway, unless you already have the shadow rope, which imitates a rope. But why would you run to level ropes? That is beyond my understanding. Anyway, just know that this rope, it's quite tough to run early on, and we're gonna try and make it work by making a dedicated build around this with 2 starter relics, because I feel like they are needed. You could argue that an item that also scales very well, like the quill, the cartographer's quill, that increases your damage by 4% per 100% map explored, is pretty decent with this robe, as it poses a lot less of a disadvantage over the course of your run. But still, at the very beginning of the run, you're gonna have a miserable time, and that is regardless, from my experience, of your build with this robe. So let's move on to something a little less interesting. How are we gonna make this work? Well, here's the idea. We're going to be running a bunch of status effect applications, because status effects deal damage. regardless of whether we are consistently hitting enemies, regardless of our cooldown reduction, of our signature charge, of our base damage. They deal a certain amount of damage all the time. They are sort of reliable, much more reliable than the 3, 4, 5 damage hits that we can apply here. So we are gonna just try to build up a variety of status effects. In fact, we're gonna be using Burn, we're gonna be using Slow, Electrocute, and we're gonna be using Poison. Poison, in my opinion, is the best of them, because it deals great damage, but it takes a very long duration to take down. It also, like all the other damaging status effects that I just mentioned, cancels enemy attacks rather frequently, but also you don't want to get poisoned yourself. So in the Earth Dungeon, for example, don't let them reflect any projectiles back at you, or you're gonna be in for a very bad time. You're gonna root yourself, you're gonna burn yourself, you're gonna poison yourself, you're gonna hit canceling all your attacks by yourself, essentially, by just having mis-aimed at a shielded enemy, and then they flung that projectile right back at you, killing you in the process. Like, you really want to avoid stuff like that. But for now, just know that we're going to be using all these kinds of status effects. So naturally, a decent choice for a starter relic is going to be one that you probably rarely ever see, if you've ever even used it, is the offensive Pandemic Pouch. All elemental status effects have a chance to cause a burst that spreads their effects. It has a 50% chance, so it should realistically proc on every 1 out of 2 enemies, every second enemy, in other words. I really like this item a lot. I do play this with the level rope frequently. It is very in boss rush. It's very weak against Suras, and Sura cannot be affected by status effects, so this build ultimately will need much more than just this to work with. You need to develop a game plan over the course of your run. But in order to not have to focus so hard on making this robe not be a huge detriment to the rest of our run, we are simply going to try to eradicate that factor. We won't have to pay too much attention to the rope scaling here and not making mistakes. Instead, we will have to dedicate all of our attention to assembling a build that is capable of hitting bosses, of killing bosses, and, finally, of eviscerating Sora. We want to execute the guy. We really don't want to struggle for too long with the fight. This is a, I'd say, medium to advanced to very difficult difficulty level that we are going to try to handle today, especially if you have never played a level rope run before, all the way through, maybe even looped. This is not easy. This is not beginner level by any means, in my opinion. There are way too many things you have to pay attention to. For example, your build has to be very well put together. You are working with a limited item pool here because you already have 2 less item spots. Semi-permanently, one of them is going to be permanently gone, exchanged for a cursed item, and the other one is going to be a pandemic pouch, which you don't really want to get rid of for the most part of the run, right? The longest part. So pandemic pouch, 50% chance to make status effects spread. Now this spread, there are certain interactions. For example, a burn spread works slightly different from a slow spread. Some of these apply damage, others, like the slow spread, are just huge radius slow, and you can actually see them very well. The poison, for example, is my favorite. It leaves behind a puddle on the ground, like almost with that one dash that does the exact same thing. It pops a toxic vial on the ground, and then that leaves behind this small AoE that for like 2 seconds or so will poison enemies standing inside of it. It looks very nice. I really like it a lot. But we're going to be using these status effects. We're going to be trying to spread them as much as possible to all enemies in the entire room, clump them up, and then hit them with these status effects so they take damage. They just die a little bit faster, giving us the edge in terms of the achievable damage here right off the get-go. Now, with that out of the way, let's get into the Arcana here. For basic, I chose to run Flame Strike, as I did originally in the making of this build. I just really like it. It is a charged Arcana, typical 3 hits type of charge Arcana, so you do a hit, and then the charged ability, which deals a lot more damage. This ability generally deals very high damage. It is a melee ability with quite a large range, almost a cleaving ability at that, and only when enhanced does it actually burn enemies, so we want to enhance this as soon as possible. It also destroys enemy projectiles when enhanced. It's quite neat, looks like so. As with most charge-based abilities, this can be retargeted if you just quickly fling it before the final hit, aka the charged hit. It deals very good damage though, and it will help us crowd control a bunch of enemies whenever our abilities are on cooldown, whenever our other status effects are already applied. Then we can just hit them with this, damage them down, or burn them once we find the enhanced version. It is not a must-have, but burn is another damaging status effect. We're going to be running Electrocute, Poison, and Burn for damaging status effects. They're also the, I'd say, rather utility-focused status effects of Slow and Freeze. Our dash is gonna be revolving around slowing here today. Originally, I used to play this build with Freeze. However, one issue in that is that you can't exactly freeze enemies consistently when they have long-lasting status effects like Poison or Shock on them. And when you have 3 different damaging status effects that break freeze immediately on impact, you can't exactly keep track of their individual durations, the current duration, the remainder of the duration, very well. So freeze is not a very reliable status effect. You can only ever proc it first and then apply your other status effects. I don't want to have something like that, so instead I chose to run Razor Burst, which is the only wind dash in the game that immediately, while unenhanced, can apply slow. It is in a very small area, so you dash and you leave behind this area of slashing winds, very tiny AoE. It will sort of draw enemies in that touch it, that are in its broad radius, or that are roughly in its radius. It will draw them in, deal a bunch of damage to them, slow them, and then kind of spit them back out, like so. And that little spread you can see there, that huge circle of winds, that is actually the Pandemic Pouch slowing enemies down around this. And why do I want them to be slowed down? Well, so I just have a lot more time. I'm buying myself a lot more time in those very crowded rooms with a lot of enemies that lock me in. I am buying myself time to reposition, I'm buying myself time to cast my charge-based basic, I am buying myself time for the cooldowns to take back down, so I just have more damage, I have more to work with. I also am buying myself time in rooms that don't lock up in order to just walk away from the fight scene to recover. Maybe I unintentionally baited a bunch of enemies, for example. I can just slow them down, just dash like this through a corridor. They will usually end up all getting stuck in there, and then it will slow a bunch of them, so I can just walk away, wait things out, come back whenever I can. Also, this combines very nicely, as it literally slows enemies down, with the Poison status effect, which takes forever to finish. What you don't generally want to do with status effects is apply the same more than once, because you can. When I cast 2 abilities that would shock an enemy, the shock duration from the first ability that the enemy got hit by has to be weighted out. Essentially, it doesn't apply shock twice. They are not shocked twice as much or twice as hard. No, in fact, only one of them will actually proc, and the other one won't proc at all. Even after the first shock expired, there is no second shock or anything like that, so usually we don't get a benefit from casting the same status effect onto the same cast of enemies more than once. And buying us time allows for us to wait out the poison, and with that, naturally all the other much faster ticking status effects, to just maximize our DPS without wasting any abilities here. So plenty of reasons to run a slow here. You might want to run a freeze instead, depends on your playstyle. In that case, I would strongly recommend you run Frostwing, which also freezes right from the very get-go while unenhanced and gets significantly better when enhanced. Speaking of enhancements, our Razor Burst lasts a lot longer when enhanced. So this is also not a mandatory enhancement, but it is one that is quite handy in certain situations, and that might help you out if you're not very familiar with using this dash, as it is kind of wonky. Look at that positioning. It doesn't spawn where I start the dash, not exactly. It's kind of where I dash to, but also it's kind of hard to tell while dashing where it's gonna be, so predicting where this is gonna go is rather wonky. You'd usually just want to cast it to run away, or into enemies like so, really aggressively just dashing through the enemies and then walking away through them, buying you ample time, leaving them behind you, also making a bunch of room for yourself. There are plenty of ways to use it. It's not mandatory. Let's move on. For our standard, I would say this is absolutely mandatory. I absolutely love it. I have forever played with this, a level Robe build. Every time I try to assemble a different level Robe build, as there are many different versions you could run, many different IDs that you might want to try out. This is my favorite though. Bouncing Surge is an Arcana I pretty much always want to play with. And why so? Well, not only does this look fucking fancy, I can hold it for as long as I want to, like a glacial spear, but also it bounces starting at the very first enemy it hits to a bunch of enemies, and they can be across huge distances. It will bounce them, it will shock them, and then on impact, Pandemic Pouch is also being procced here, so it can even shock enemies that are not affected by this initial damaging ability. I really love this. It's fantastic into Sura, especially because of the shadowy balls. So it bounces through the entire arena, basically killing off all the balls because all of them only have 1 HP. I only need to sneeze on them and they die immediately. So from the very first time I ever found this, I fell in love with it. I really love it. And then the upgrade is just as fantastic. It bounces more times and shocks for a longer duration. That's awesome. Longer duration means more damage, more bounces means more shadowy balls, more enemies, more potential Pandemic Pouch procs. Because it shocks every single enemy it hits, it has a chance to proc on every single enemy it bounces to. Isn't that just amazing? I absolutely love this. Let's move on though to our signature. It's gotta be Toxic Bolas. A rather unconventional ability. You might want to run a fire ability here instead. I still recommend you pick up 4 different status effects just so you don't waste anything, just so you are more versatile in what you do and just have higher damage output against regular enemies. But arguably, undeniably so, Toxic Bolas is a very underwhelming ability. I really love it. It deals incredibly low damage, especially into bosses. Even when fully charged, it doesn't deal any more damage than the base version. Essentially, it's very comparable to just a regular ability. It always does about sub 50 damage. It's like 30 damage max or so, on average, I'd say. It's really terrible. But I really like it, I just can't help it. So, similarly to the Bouncing Surge, we can hold this. These are Bolas that we are spinning around. Doesn't that just look fantastic? And we can release at any given moment, and then the cooldown will start ticking down. These are Bolas. They pierce enemies, an infinite number, due to this being our signature. And they are relatively fast. They will root enemies in place, and then they will poison them. The root cannot be affected by our Pandemic Pouch. However, the poison can. And it works like a treat. It looks fantastic. I think it's very satisfying. It stacks up nicely with the rest of our abilities. Suspending enemies in place so we can burst them down with our stats effects, so we can literally slow them down again. They can't move towards us. They can't advance their progress towards killing us. They can't even shoot at us because they're gonna be cancelled by the poison. Very likely anyway. Or by one of our other damaging stats effects, or even just the slow. Or just a regular ability cast. Who knows? They are suspended in place. We can do whatever we want. We can dance circles around them, run away, wait for our cooldowns, spam at them, burst them down with our basic. Just take your sweet time on this ability. I really like it a lot. And it can be very impactful as it pierces all enemies. It doesn't have a very long duration though, and unfortunately it doesn't count as like a buff or a debuff or any of those other things, those categories that you could enhance in this game. So that's a little unfortunate. I would love to enhance the root duration on this, but well, what can you do? And then when you actually somehow manage to generate enough signature charge with this build, which I deem pretty much impossible due to the starting requirement of the level rope here with the decreased signature charge by 50%. 50% less signature charge gain. This build is already horrendous at generating signature charge. And even when fully stacked at, or when neutral at 0%, at plus 50% or plus 75%, it's quite unlikely either way that you will ever generate plenty of signature charge with this build. But if you ever somehow manage to do that, maybe you find a Jax Ocarina, for example, and start off every stage with a fully charged signature. Don't know why you would do that, but you might. Well, this is just a shotgun version of the Bolas. Yes, the spinning one here looks a lot cooler. So it's in sort of a cone in front of you, just throws a bunch of these Bolases that can only damage an enemy hit once. Yes, they deal okay damage, but comparatively to other abilities, to other signatures that deal 150 plus damage. Now, here's my requirement for a good signature, a good strong signature that you can base a build around in something like Boss Rush, for example. It has to deal, at the very minimum, 150 damage like an explosive fireball, without any crit chance, just 150 bare minimum. A very strong signature will be 250 plus, 250, 300. I have tried some that got up to 600 damage, but this one, it deals what, like 50? It's abysmal. It is abysmally terrible. You really, really, really will never make this work as a signature build. Also, but mostly to the fact that you can't shotgun. You can't literally hit someone, not even like a boss, with all of these hits. They don't add up. It's just one of them. One of them connects. It's awful. It's terrible. I hate this. I really, really hate this. Such a stupid design decision. Anyway, I could ramble on and on and on and complain about how much I love this ability and how much I wished it actually were usable. It is awful, and it's the main reason this build is gonna struggle a lot with dealing damage, even when fully stacked or when becoming neutral on the level rope. Regardless, we went through all of these tiny little synergies. We briefly explained all of these status effects. They're damaging. That's all you really gotta know. Burn is rather like mediocre, takes a few times but deals okay damage. Shock takes very quickly, a lot of times, and then poison takes very slowly, takes a long while to deal the damage but deals very high damage, and that's it, right? That's all you can really explain for this build. These synergies are obvious. You can just combine these in wildly different ways, however you please, depends on the situation ultimately. So let's just move on with the spicy stuff here, shall we? Which is going to be our second starter relic. It's going to be one of these special cursed run related relics that you can only get outside of a run, and you can only have up to one of these in any given run. Kinda sucks. I wish these were regular obtainable relics, but then again I also wish you could start with a cursed relic. That would be a little too powerful, but for certain builds it would make or break the build. So here we are, 25. We are precisely looking for this one, the retro floor plan. If you can't find this on your first attempt, just head back to the teleporter and teleport back and forth a bunch of times. These items are always refreshed on re-entering this area. Retro floor plan doubles the number of enemies and lowers their health by 20%. Very nice, but we don't really care about that part. I mean, it's gonna be very handy when trying to kill stuff with a level rope early on, but generally speaking, we don't care much about their health. Their health can remain the same. It sort of does feel the same, to be fair, when running a level rope. It doubles the number of enemies, meaning that you can stack your level rope twice as much. You will stack it automatically. There's no option to not do it unless you refuse to straight up kill enemies. So this can make certain rooms incredibly difficult. As say there are a bunch of elemental enemies, now there's twice as many. There you go. Say there's a bunch of stompers or summoners or rangers or thieves. Now there's twice as many. Hope you're having a good time, but that's precisely why we are going to try to affect the entire room with whatever we do, whether it be slow, whether it be the literal affection of the entire room with Bouncing Surge, a Toxic Bolas, or just a very huge AoE basic ability use. So affect all of them, keep all of them stun and way, way away from us, because we only start on 250 HP, and this could go down the drain really quickly. As with all of these runs, though, I will not intend to fully finish this run. I don't intend to actually get to a point where I can play this build well enough so that I can win a run. It's all about the fun here today, and I have played this build many times, and it's always fun to me, just how different it plays out compared to all other builds. This is generally a statement that you can attest to any level rope runs. A level rope run is always automatically way different from anything else you could ever do in this game. It's incredibly slow. It's like almost running a full defense setup, and you have to be very creative to make that work slightly less painlessly. Now, of course, you could run really high damage abilities that are very versatile, like the creme de la creme of abilities, but instead, I decided let's make a build just purely working around another mechanic in the game that is rarely ever used, being status effects. It's rarely ever used, from my take, from my guess, I guess. because it just doesn't work against Sura. I hate that to this day. I wish status effects would work into Sura. Again, that's one of those design decisions that I would never support in a game. It's just, it completely eradicates a strategy, ultimately, when not being able to use status effects against an ant boss, but that's beside the point. So, let's move on to the build specifics, starting with the intended build playstyle. Now, you want to be incredibly defensive. On the fence all the time, just run away, walk away, don't be afraid. You don't want to overcommit, you can't deal damage, you can't kill things fast enough. You have to take your time. You are forced to walk away from fights, wait for your cooldowns to come back up, and fight enemies from very much afar. You don't really want to use your basic or your dash too much, as a matter of fact, only when needed, especially your dash, and your basic just deals next to no damage. So rely on your bouncing surge, rely on your toxic bolas, and on your vortex trap occasionally to deal the damage for you, and then just slowly kill a bunch of enemies, and trust me, things will start to ramp up after say 1-1 or at the latest 1-2. You will become slightly more able to kill things a little bit faster. You do also intend to start with a boss that you deal decent damage against, so maybe not necessarily something like a Shu. Shu is a little bit of a pain in the ass. You start with a Fire Arcana, but it's very slow and it's charged. And you also start with a Wind and an Earth Arcana, and generally Shu just dashes around the place. That's the main reason I wouldn't pick him. Instead, go for the Thunder Twins, for example. The dungeon there is generally very easy. You have a very strong ability against them with the toxic bolas. The fight is very easy. They don't move a shit ton around, and generally you can take out their minions very easily with the bouncing surge, even when not having a lot of damage for it at the beginning of a run. Alternatively, I would suggest you start with Freya, as the water dungeon should be very easy to this build too, as it only really punishes melee enemies, melee builds that need to get very close to kill enemies. We are quite the opposite. We always want to stay very much afar. We also have Bouncing Surge, which is fantastic there. It is pretty much the strongest ability in your kit here, as it has a great range, and it can be reliably hit from very afar, hitting an entire room, and then slowly just bursting it down without the room ever standing a chance against retaliating. So Freya, generally I think the dungeon is very easy to this build too. I think the fight isn't difficult by any means. It's very chill, especially early on. You can easily walk out of all of her attacks. So you want to start on either of them and then just pick up the pace after the first boss slain, or around the first boss slain, or around the first boss fight even. Depends on how fast you can accelerate things. That really ultimately depends on luck though. On the room layouts, on the number of enemies spawned, roughly, and on the items found up to that point. In terms of potential problems, there is one elephant in the room, and it's your damage. Your lack of damage, your lack of cooldown reduction, your lack of signature charge gain, your lack of health, everything is terrible, but the damage hits especially hard. Not being able to kill enemies right away means that you are likely risking to take much more damage than in your average run. When there's just 20 enemies on screen, keep in mind there's double the regular amount of enemies, but even without that relic, this is still not easy. There is essentially always double, if not, like in our case, quadruple the number of enemies that there would be regular on screen at a given time, and if you can't handle that well, just walk away from rooms as long as you can, assuming they don't lock you in. If they do lock you in, you have to handle this situation well. These types of situations you have to get comfortable with. You have to find comfort in a very crowded room and just kiting them around, stun locking them, buying yourself time for your abilities to tick down. If you can't do that, I strongly recommend don't play this build right away. Get there slowly. Don't double the number of enemy spawns right away. By God, that is not an easy thing to deal with consistently. So damage, but ultimately survivability as a reason, as an effect of that lack of damage, is a huge issue, and you have to be very good, or at least advanced, on an advanced level, at playing this game in order to even survive consistently. Again, locked rooms are the devil. And finally, for my favorite part, recommended items Arcana. You love stones, you love pixies. So, sorry, sprites. There are many different names I give them, honestly. Fairies, sprites, pixies. Just plenty of names. These things deal damage for you. They're like extra status effects. They in fact also apply extra status effects that can also spread with the pandemic patch, so there's a nice synergy there. You like things that make your status effects deal more damage. You like things that grant you more status effects, like a Tesla coil, for example. That grants you a small chance to apply a status effect like Shock, in the case of a Tesla Coil, on all of your abilities, so you just spread them more naturally even if you have an ability like Bouncing Surge on cooldown. You like things that are safe damage increases. You love finding a Quill early on, for example, because that scales over the course of your run and gives you huge amounts of damage. Double Trouble is okay, but taking double damage is a huge cost to pay. It doesn't really grant you a huge advantage. Yes, it doubles your damage dealt, but when you deal about 1 or 2 damage per ability hit, that is worth nothing. Other than that, I can't really think of a lot of items. I guess items that get rid of signature charge are decent, as you can't really rely on generating any, and even when you can somehow achieve that, your signature, as I showed off earlier, is quite useless after all. Very low damage, very low on the versatility scale or the priority scale here, so just get rid of that, cut it entirely. Instead, just get safe, consistent damage increases, like a luxury handbag, for example. That's what I'm thinking of. Things that give you extra base damage regardless of the consequences. Well, you don't want to lower your damage any further with items like luxury handbag likewise, because lowering your damage further means certain doom. It means your run takes 2 hours now instead of 90 minutes. And it means that you will most likely just perish at some point from a lack of killing those, of being able to kill those who intend to hurt you. And with all that out of the way, I think this is a pretty okay summary. You just want any and everything, and I mean any and everything that gives you more damage, more survivability, or more sustainability. But you need a good, healthy combination of all of them, and that's why this is an advanced, an intermediate build, if you will, because this is not just your average dump damage in here and you're good to go build. You need a little bit of everything to keep yourself afloat. So we're gonna try to achieve that. It is not very easy by any means. Sometimes the game tries to screw you over, so your run might take anywhere between an hour, which I find very unlikely on this build, or just straight up 90 minutes, 120 minutes, or longer than that. If you're very bad at the game, you have to frequently run away from fights to just generate health, for example, or to, you know, recollect your thoughts, to wait for those cooldowns to tick down. It strongly depends on what the run decides to throw you. I am hoping for a good time here, but experience shows, my experience shows me that it is unlikely to have a good run on this build. Let's put it into perspective. There are way too many things that can go wrong, especially the room generation can really screw you over, and you only start on 250 HP, which is less than a Venture Rope. So you die incredibly fast. And with that having been said, let's get right into the run. Let's grab our money, and then I think I'm going to start with the Freya. Okay, Thundering Keep. Let's do Thundering Keep then. Instead of wasting any time there, let's get right into it. Shu is our final boss. Freya and Thunder Twins, those are rather easy. Shu isn't exactly easy. Also, the evasion can be very annoying, even with this stats effect spread. Though enemies that are off-screen that haven't seen you yet won't be preparing any attacks and therefore won't have any evasion. So you can preemptively hit them and then follow that up. Oh shit, come on. Follow that up with whatever you desire. I am severely out of practice. On running this build, so pardon any grave mistakes. Oh wow. Come on. Okay, I definitely need to be a lot more nimble here. Summoners are quite a pain in the ass. Oh, I missed that. Oh my god. Alright, I won't let that count. I am out of practice after all. Let's redo it. Okay. I definitely need to be a lot more nimble, but also actually hit my abilities. I do have a severe case of controller aim right now, which is why I missed so many abilities there. Quite annoying. And we find Atlas last, so the 3 simplest bosses in the game, though Atlas does hurt significantly harder than Shu, if he actually does connect. I don't mind that. I'm pretty decent at fighting Atlas. He's one of my favorite dungeons after all. It's one that brings quite a refreshing gameplay with it. Okay, just walk away into this direction. Toss this one off screen, so they can't even cast their abilities, and then walk back off screen. Alright. We are, of course, running the jazz music here, because this is a long run, and we need something to keep our spirit healthy. Keep that morale up. Okay, now usually 3 skulls I would be happier about because that means more enemies to kill and more scaling to achieve, but with double enemy spawns that is absolute hell on earth. I don't want to deal with that. Now in case you were curious, there were a few grave mistakes I made on the last run, if you do want to consider that fully fledged run. Most of which are the most important of which being impatience and casting my bouncing surge into other projectiles, which destroy the bouncing surge, naturally. Bouncing surge is quite important with this build to connect. Bolas does pierce, so it also pierces projectiles. But the surge doesn't do that. Alright, play around the stairs effect. Should die to the poison. Okay, try to get rid of the summons first. Also didn't pay attention to those on the last attempt. My god, summoners are just a pain in the dick. Hit all of them, so they can't summon as much. Shoot the Bolas through, so they get rid of the lightning balls. Because I can't really evade them in this small-ass room. I wonder if mimics also spawn twice. That'd be very threatening, but also potentially very helpful. Let's hop into the dead end here. Hopefully find some healing globes. Is the knight dead? Oh, of course not. No, he is. Okay, we find our first upgrade. Definitely getting that. Also, another good stress effect. Applicant with the Glacial Cross. But it's very risky to use it, as it is a melee dash. It's very long range dash. Moderately fast. Also easy to miss. Okay, I'm gonna try and attract the largest possible crowd here, and then just burst them down from afar. They will still walk towards me, as they are being damaged, so they do acknowledge my existence. Getting this upgrade means I won't have to nearly be as afraid of projectiles, as I can just destroy them. I did not expect that attack coming my way. Also, now I can burn enemies for significantly extra damage, having 1 extra sales effect, applying burn. I don't need the Robe upgrade here, it is not very useful, especially this early on. I don't even know if I will be able to get far into the run. Wow, killing myself on the barrel there, not very smart by any means. Always wanna pay attention to my spacing here. Okay. I am sitting on the edge of my seat. After all, I have already fucked up one run here. I am in the process of fucking up another. I do like Raffle Ticket. Allows for a lot of versatility. Also, I will need to buy a lot of different items and Arcana upgrades. Oh, wow. That's really lucky. Thanks. Does that make up for my stupidity on the last one? Wow, lots of healing. I really like the Inkwell. It's never gonna proc with this build, but if we ever find a Jax Ocarina, that's actually a pretty good reason to pick it. That means reliable healing, at least once per stage. It's like a knapsack, but for a lot less. But also you need 2 item slots, one of which is cursed. Vampires, eyeglasses, we don't care a lot about, but it's extra healing. Jewelry box, we care a lot about. That is exactly the type of item we would want to run in this build. Alright, very, very grateful about that. Now the raffle ticket is a much worse purchase, but that's fine. I might still be able to make that work. I don't really feel like... I might buy the Glacial Cross, maybe. Water Tendrils are also decent. It's not a status effect, but it's a pretty strong effect. Projectiles to strike, any other projectiles they strike. I guess I should get that just for the Bouncing Search. I do like that. And then we could get the token for Kremire. It might be free, but even when you buy it for 125, you get back from Kremire like, what, like 20 gold? Also, the neat part here is that I already found plenty of items thanks to the present. So I'm gonna be able to sell off a bunch of them to Kremire. Forcing a Kremire on the next stage is gonna be quite helpful. This boss takes forever. Just gotta be a little patient. Not stand inside of him so he doesn't hit me with that projectile cast. Okay. Ring of Reserves, that's another item that I care about. I care to get rid of. It's not very helpful to this build by any means. So yeah, thanks for that. Just gonna force the Kremire. And then move on. You have to be very considerate playing this build early on. I dealt with like 8k damage on that floor. That's a lot. That is a lot of damage, my friend. You have to be very considerate early on doing the run, or you might just die immediately, like I so graciously performed seconds ago. Okay. Well, I wouldn't say I performed. That wasn't intentional by any means. I'm not afraid to acknowledge the fact that I am pretty bad at playing this build. I'm also proved it, I suppose. Oh wow, loads of enemies. They were even dragging the frickin' barrel along. Now the braces that we got earlier means that we can use this dragon ability, whatever the hell it's called, Dragon Arc, in order to destroy projectiles for us, as it will now pierce the projectiles. It's much more reliable than our basic. Look at that, healing from the vampire's eyeglasses, sweet. Now those do not count as projectiles. Let's fire this up. Oh no, I forgot our signature heals us. Ha! Oh boy, what a misplay. But that's okay, we got plenty of healing due to the gift. I was gonna shock them preemptively, then dash into the room, and then shotgun into them, hitting at least the summoners, but also applying a lot of damage, doing a lot of damage in the process. Just a great room clearing ability. Okay, let's get rid of the token first, but let's wait because we will need all the money we can get a hold of. So let's potentially find the Gloves of Midas and then dump all of our shitty items in there. I am considering also dumping the, what's it called? The Inkwell, the regenerative Inkwell. it's not super powerful. As I was saying, it's just like a knapsack, just a tiny bit of extra help. Unlike the jewelry box, for example, which is incredibly powerful. And therefore so steeply priced when you actually find it in a shop. Oh yeah, projectile destruction. Love to see it. Regenerative inkwell. Burn them all to the ground. Let's check out our stats. We are already down to minus 17%, roughly. That is just fantastic, honestly. That is incredible. I suppose I really haven't played this rope for a long ass time, huh? We are up to 424 HP! And we found a surefire rocket. That's gonna work wonders with the inkwell. Wow! What a run so far. I'm a huge fan. I love the upgrade here. That's fantastic. Definitely getting a hold of that one. Right, what else do we want to grab? Just finish up this room. Head back to Premier, I suppose. Or maybe do the boss first, so we could still find the Medusa glove. Bait out the attack there. Yes, that was indeed intentional, because it's not a Lancer. I do frequently mix up Lancers and Knights, though, which is quite a stupid mistake to make. Approach them from this side, but far, far away. Because he can easily hit you when you are standing right beside him with that attack, and it's quite annoying. Okay, let's pump and dump, you know. Have a good old time, pumping and dumping. Buy low, sell high, am I right? Do we get rid of these two? I think this is fantastic healing so far. I also really like the raffle ticket, even though it hasn't procced yet. It doesn't mean it won't be able to generate value later here. Inkwell is pretty damn good, I'm not sure. Vampire's Eyeglasses is natural healing. I guess I could keep these for now and then just get rid of them later. Yeah, I'll just keep everything. I think I'll grab the Surefire, as that just means a lot more healing with the Inkwell. I could really get rid of the Eyeglasses, but Eyeglasses plus that one Cursed Relic, the Vampire's Fangs, is pretty good. Just, it's not so good that I need it by any chance. I don't crit a lot, I don't even hit a lot with these abilities, and even the Vampire's Attire isn't very powerful with this build. Also, there are presumably many more likely to be much better with this build items. As we already said, we got a very niche item like Jax Ocarina that's gonna work decently well for this build. So the likeliness of me finding the... First of all, finding the Vampire Fangs is rather low, but then also finding the Vampire Fangs while not having a better items in those other three items, I'd say is quite low by my estimate. So I will toss them here. I don't think they're gonna be very helpful. However, I believe that this combination also, the fact that we got a jewelry box, which is quite frankly one of the best heal items in this entire game, means that we will have plenty of sustain for the remainder of the run. I am considering grabbing a Bax's Cape Key just so we can play hyper aggressively in the late game, though I don't think that's really gonna happen. We shall see, though. We shall see. I don't think I want to make that commitment yet. It's a lot of gold that I'd be spending. Potentially none, I know, but potentially a lot. Midas items are fantastic. We are now at a point where we can reliably damage ourselves to generate gold, or we can just straight up sell a bunch of stuff to generate gold. We can do plenty of things to generate gold. We can even deal damage at this point. Don't really care much about taking damage. Keep in mind, we need those stats effects. Oh wow, they were out of range. Just barely, but still. Kinda sad. Alright, let's keep attacking. I don't feel like waiting here. I got projectile destruction after all. Shouldn't be concerned about anything destroying my stuff. Not even sure whether they can do that. Alright, Welling Tornado, that's gonna keep enemies at bay. Also destroy a whole slew of projectiles around our character. It's very reliably usable for that. We do have to fight Shu here. I thought we'd have a lightning, water, earth. I was wrong. I didn't see the Shu. That's gonna be a bit of a bummer. No, those winds do not count as projectiles, as most tornado-like abilities do. So we can destroy them. That's news to me. Never seen that before. As soon as we hit 500 HP, we will know that we'll have reached the threshold of 0%. We are neutral at that point. And going forward, we only draw a huge plus out of this rope. Cast the tornado, keep those enemies at bay. Right, we are currently at 10%, roughly. Minus 10, that is, but still. We have come quite a long way. Get closer, just a little closer. Extra max health, I won't say no to that. Oh, I hate winds. Also controller aim. That's okay. We don't have to be concerned about anything at this point. What is with my mouse coming back up? I hate that so much. I hate this cursor thing. Just go away, please. It takes like 5 seconds to vanish every time. Well, let's just heal. There's nobody here to aim at. Nothing and nobody. Oh, hello. Oh man, I love Pandemic Pouch. It's just such a cool item. We are at the peak of this run's damage, of this feel-goodness. We don't even have any damage ups, as you can clearly tell, beside the fact that we generate plenty of signature due to our setup, which doesn't actually deal damage for us, though it just heals us and casts a base version of the ability. So, no damage ups, but we are doing just fine, and I really, really love Pandemic Pouch for that. It's just so fun. Also, generally doubling enemies, I love it. I just love playing with that. Any run just gets a whole lot more fun with more enemies around to potentially hinder and stunlock you. I do like Spell Thief Socks. Those are very nice for this build. Here we could increase the potency of our poison stats effects, but that's not gonna be important to the remainder of the run. Also because our final dungeon is Earth, so elemental enemies are immune to the poison or they take reduced damage. But more importantly because, again, we are almost full on items and these few slots are reserved for very crucial items. Spell Thieves could be one of those crucial items aforementioned. Increased movement speed every time an Arcana is used. So this is a great item for dodging. Not sure I want to have that. We don't exactly cycle through our abilities very quickly, even into boss fights. So I don't think it's gonna be very powerful. We are not struggling yet with movement speed either. I don't exactly intend to pick up a Bewitched Glue or the Anchor either, so... I don't know, Bewitched Glue is just... It's an okay damage up, yeah, sure, but... Other than that... Completely eradicates knockback for you. And it makes you so slow. And moving slowly means that you need something like the Spell Thief Socks. I don't want to pick that preemptively as a preparation, sort of, for a potential Nox find, and then end up just having wasted an item slot. I only really feel like picking up items that are definitely going to be worthwhile. Man, I love the slow so much more than the freeze with this build. It's just so good. Alright, wait for our abilities to come up and then cancel them with a bouncing surge into a flame strike or whatever the hell the ability is called to burn them down. This is so fun. Cool. Alright, we should be neutral at this point. Wow. Already up to 8%. It's only up from here. Probably should have gotten the Robe upgrade. Oh well, what can you do? I don't really like those abilities, even though Claymore would be very strong into Sora. He's not strong into the Earth Dungeon. But most importantly, I don't really feel like spending any money here. Okay. Extra projectile damage. That would only affect these three, not our dash or basic. I don't feel like lowering the damage of half of my build. So probably wouldn't want to pick up binoculars. Other than that, the only viable pickup here would be Saber at this point. I definitely could have picked up Crocodile Heart. This just makes your scale extra hard, but only on the HP part of the build. Up to like 700 plus easily. Especially when you also find the Robe upgrade for the level Robe. That's just a lot of extra max HP. But I am more interested in raising my DPS. So I'm going to pick up that Saber. I'm going to come back for it after having beaten the boss, I think. Let's see. Is there anything interesting in it? Not really. I don't really feel like buying any of these. I'm still missing my Bouncing Surge upgrade, which is a little annoying. Let's put it that way, but yeah, I'll just fetch the Saber. No interesting items in the shops anyway. Alright, let's move on. Holy crap. We cracked 10k. The 10k damage mark. In fact, we got almost 11k. Roughly 10,900 damage. It's nutty. At this point, we just kill for fun, honestly. We just kill for extra stats. Huge damage, huge HP increases, signature charge gain like a motherfucker. Very strongly amplified by our Surefire Rocket as well. Oh yeah, we are dealing damage like an average build with a double trouble. I hate wind arrows! They penetrate my wind! Money. Fuck the portal. Alright, it is already prone. I can see Chonin over there. Glass Cannon. This doesn't hit us nearly as hard as it usually would, as we have a ton of max HP. I don't really feel like getting rid of my signature anymore. I have achieved quite an interesting rare build here, so I'm just gonna pick up a Glass Cannon and be back up to what would otherwise be considered a regular amount of max HP. Gonna pop this prior, just so anything potentially being missed by my ability won't be able to reach me, and then just head out. Play around that corner because I can easily stomach them around the corner like so. And do this cool stuff from afar. Oh my god, we deal so much damage right now. The double knocks got really lucky, but then again, there are not really any bad items at knocks for us currently. With the exception of maybe basic Arcana related items. I want to do this! Oh, I did have my dash up. It's kind of unfortunate. Oh, this feels so good. Oh, projectile destruction is just such a menace. Annoying winds. Go fuck yourself. Go fuck yourselves, my boys. Oh yeah, I'm having a great time at this point. Nice try with that evasion, boy. Try again. Come again. Okay. You don't want to get too close to them. Yes, your tornado does destroy projectiles. All projectiles, except those special ones like winds that don't exactly count as a destroyable projectile. But what it also does, I kind of lost track. it kind of makes you think that you are untouchable. And if you stand inside of an enemy when they shoot their projectiles, when the projectiles spawn, so to speak, you will still be hit because you're standing inside of the spawn points. So get just a little bit further away, just so your ability has the time, or rather the projectile has the time to develop and then be eradicated immediately by your ability. Absolute dumpster fire in here. I don't care about any of those items because all those health ups do not stack. Yes, I could increase my max health by a ton. I mean, am I gonna do that? Am I actually gonna do that? We have a lot of defense. Bleach move for Arcana. Alright, let's just do it. Okay, 526. Seems good to me. Anything else in here? I do still want that bouncing surge upgrade just to fight Serum more easily. So let's just look for that. Even though I think it's left of the teleport area, but it might be over here. Nope. It's not even a trap room. What is this? It's just a weird dead end. No, I guess I have been here before. I did fight the enemies. I suppose I didn't go all the way through. Should be adjacent to the teleporter area. Down here the room looks very much like an NPC-shaped room. I don't care about you hitting me. Oh my god, these look like monkeys, like gorillas. I love it. So many of them. Alright, at least we found one upgrade. We'll get that. It's free. Hey, let's go. Alright. Let's move on. No further hesitation. Hello, Shu. This is only dungeon 2 out of 3. Can you believe it? It feels like forever. It's been absolutely forever. I feel like I've been playing for 2 hours at this point. It's okay. We have so much HP. We'll just heal it back up. Alright, that's fun. I like that a lot. Also, the whirlwind is still going to be very useful with the dungeon, so I'm going to keep it for dungeon clear, and then switch back to the infernal cannon for boss clear. Even though the whirlwind still technically deals a lot more damage with the affinity of wind being effective against I don't know, I can't really decide. On one hand, Inferno is one of my favorites. On the other hand, it is clearly weaker. I am casting this against enemies that are standing off screen, so they might have a shield. I wouldn't be able to tell. I can't see them after all. So I am sidestepping afterwards to every cast. It's quite important, trust me. This ability, Toxic Bolas, it gets you completely fucked up. If it ever connects with you, you can completely die. Literally from 100 to 0, doesn't matter how much HP you have. They can stun lock you for all eternity. Come on, you guys. Let's just kind of breeze through this. Oh wow, that's a lot of rogues. I saw 2, not 4 there, I'm sorry. I only saw the elemental ones. Alright, still not very bothersome. Jack's Ocarina, coming a little late, but Should still be a valid pickup at this point. Arrive on new stage with a fully charged signature. Signature charge and decay rates are reduced. Don't care much about that sort of a punishment or the supposed downside, as I have massively increased otherwise base signature levels from my level rope currently at 35% roughly. Alright, I don't care about you guys. I should probably have cast the tornado long ago in order for any projectiles coming my way to be destroyed. Let's just do this. Cast another signature, get rid of their shield. Buy some time here, make some room. Come on, I just need a little more for that signature. Okay. Just want to heal off of my signature. Well, coming in very late at 3-1. Still very good pickup. And I don't have a lot of very good items, so let's get rid of this quickly. Buy the quill, drop the ticket, move in the quill, and then anything else we can get rid of? Yes, of course we can get rid of the max HP, but do we really need to at this point? And any items other than those, I'd like to keep. Even though the vest that allows for enemies to never crit us ever again would come in very handy. Ultimately, we don't really need it. We don't really care much. I do want to spam my signature as much as possible, as I just have such an incredible amount of signature generation that I frequently will be getting a full signature charge, so I might as well just use it for the heal and move on with my life. As the signature bar only remains steady and constant as long as the signature isn't full. As soon as it's full, it starts ticking back down. I would have needed to pick up the Infinity Marble earlier to mitigate that, but I don't really care about that. I just want to use it as a heal ability primarily. My god, we deal so much damage. Okay. I'd say let's just move on, right? Am I missing anything? I don't think we're missing anything, so... Oh, right, still want that sweet, sweet Bouncing Surge upgrade. I'll take any and all irises I can get a hold of. Come on. Please, brother. That's rude. That's just rude at this point. Just a disappointment, to be honest. Okay, give me a second here. Let's just heal. Thanks to Jack's Ocarina. Legacy of Fun, free signature per stage. Courtesy of Jack's Ocarina, totally not copied from or alluding to a certain other game series. From a certain game series that likes striking people for covering their games. Ah. Not into the spikes, fool. Still haven't seen a mimic. Maybe this relic entirely disables mimics. I wouldn't be surprised. Just generate another signature and do it all again. Be a bitch. Be a bitch about it. Cry about it. I don't care. Just keep healing. We're just looking for our merchant and the exit. My god. I just Thanos snapped these guys. Holy crap, they just turn into dust in front of my eyes. What a great build. It's always fun to play. And there it is, finally. Bouncing Surge. Oh. Thank you, man. Let's head back over here. Looks like this would be the grandest part of the map. That remains unexplored. Let's just do this. When in doubt, cast a surge. Ah, come on, not the root. Let me out. Nasty archer. Quickly cast this. And then hit and run due to the poison. I can't really risk fighting here. Man, being rooted is so nasty. Is this what I'm doing to you guys? Do you feel that way too when I root you? I'm kinda sorry. Oh, what a fucking room again. Just have to cast that whirlwind, just have to force it. Just keep spamming it, honestly. I should have just done that immediately, because then I can get rid of those pesky rogues. Man, those rooms have been nasty lately. But then again, Earth Dungeon, with this build, is my favorite. It's just so rough. It has no mercy for you. No mercy toward the player. At all. Oh my god, I'm being stunlocked again. I should probably heal here, not get rooted again. It has happened quite a lot lately. Okay. Another Midas item, that is sweet. Oh, it's not another, actually it's our first. Unfortunately, that's 20% extra damage. Love to see it. Quill is just a little bit of extra damage because we're not fully exploring here, so it's not super powerful. Backpack is not, as the name suggests, reliable. In fact, it's quite unreliable compared to the Giant's Heart, which is just a straight up max health increase. Backpack is conditional and therefore unreliable, or rather conditional. Just keep healing. We could be ditching out a lot of poison here. But keep in mind that even if you can cast your signature like 10 times consecutively, it still only deals, well, like a third, a fourth, a sixth, sometimes even, of the damage that an otherwise very strong signature would be dealing, and the poison doesn't stack, so you might be better off just healing, honestly. A tech that I would consider doing, that I would recommend doing if you want to play this more often, and if you actually somehow acquire a build like this one with a very high signature charge gain rate, you should just drop this, cast the first signature, pick it up, and then cast the rest. Or drop it whenever you see fit, whenever you need to. I'm going to keep the Tornado here, just deals a lot more damage. Come on, boy. Lose the Tornado again. Though it does help. It does help a lot. It's an AoE ability that procs pretty much instantaneously. It has a little bit of a downtime, as you can tell, so while Atlas is jumping, I can't just break free from the ability. It's not an instant cast, and then I can move out of it. It actually takes a while to get going. So this is not the optimal ability into rooms with rogues that stunlock you into oblivion, into a corner, onto a spike, and then you are literally just dead right away. They deal like 50 damage a second, and you are stunlocked. You just can't do anything about it except jam this ability, because it hits all around you, and you know that it will kill them and push them away and buy you that precious, precious room keeping you alive. So that's the only reason I have been using this over Inferno Cannon, which I feel much more... Is it averted? Averted too, I suppose? I like this a lot better. I feel much more comfortable at using this as well. Just generate some signature. Stop doing these fancy dashes. Man, those guys are bricks. You don't have any swag. Stop it. It's just annoying. Enjoy the stun lock. I hope you do. Alright, no decent items here. We don't really care about any of those as far as I'm concerned. Pandemic Pouch doesn't do anything for the remainder of this run, so we will toss it ultimately and probably get a water caution instead, because that actually does something sometimes. Or maybe something else. What else would I get? I don't care much about the Chronograph. I don't want to cost my basic a lot. Even though it deals okay damage, that's not the main damage source. See, the main damage source is our helper abilities, like the Inferno Cannon, like the Dragon Arc, like these two. So I really don't care about casting my basic. In that case, I'm just going to grab the Water Caution. So that allows for me to play much more aggressively and then occasionally not take damage for being incredibly aggressive. When I inevitably fuck up and die like an idiot. Look at that damage. One bouncing surge. Sora goes bye-bye. Now you should technically equip the Whirlwind here as it destroys projectiles. It just deals with Sora very well. But I don't really care about that. I like Inferno Cannon better. Also, technically shouldn't chicken away from Sora too much because I have projectile destruction. And quite a grand amount of that. So I don't really have to be afraid. I should just destroy his projectiles instead of trying to dodge them. It's just the main issue is that not all of the abilities that he casts are projectiles, even though most of them look like projectiles. Bye-bye. Good times. Bye-bye, Sora. You didn't even get me close, dude. Probably because I didn't have a double trouble for a change. Unlike in Boss Rush, where I pretty much have it every single run. That was quite a good time. I kind of regret not having upgraded this early on, but how could I have known about this insane setup from the gift? I just didn't have the patience to explore the entire floor before making decisions. Very nice. Quill didn't get a lot of value. I simply didn't explore a lot towards the end there, but I didn't really have to. I fully stacked this thing. It's a huge damage up. It's like having a double trouble without any downside, except the entire early game is kind of painful. But again, double trouble kind of would do the same thing to a certain extent. I like that. Yeah, cheer me on. Cheer me on, bitches. I love it. This is great. Let's drop this. I don't really like the shield aesthetics thing. Woo! What a good time. I have no feeling for time. I lost complete track of the run here multiple times. I have no clue where I am, what my name is, what's going on, but what I know for sure is I had a good time. It was a jolly fun time. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you could enjoy too. Hope you enjoyed this build. A very personal build of mine. I assembled this ages ago. I really love this. It plays around stairs effects, which are one of my favorite things in the world. Stairs effects are just so cool. I am a CC whore. I'm a major. I love CCing things and then just bursting them down out of nowhere. It's just such fun. And the level rope helps a lot with that. Early game is much more focused around making CC viable, and then the late game is just hit everything once and it pops. You saw that bouncing surge on Sora. My god, there was a lot of damage. I felt like I'm smiting a god. Holy shit. Anywho, thank you very much for watching. Hope you had a good time too. Hope you enjoyed this one. You know how it is. I wish you all a good morning, a good day, or a good night, wherever you are, and until next time, bye bye.